Good evening and welcome to the Phoenixville Area School Board meeting for Monday, May 23rd. It is 7:02 p.m. Please stand for the pledge to the flag. Dr. Whitehead, would you please call the roll?
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Good evening, everyone. I will now call the roll. Mr. Weiss. Here. Ms. Walker.
Present.
Dr. Serini.
Present.
Ms. Seamus.
Here.
Ms. Rook.
Here.
Mr. Goldberg. Noted Mr. Goldberg is remote. Ms. Carmenito.
Present.
And Ms. Turner here. Mr. Overland.
Present.
Our student representatives are not here. Mr. President Pro Tem, we have 8 board members present, 1 virtual.
Thank you, Dr. Whitehead. On the screen behind us, you can see the announcement of meetings and upcoming public meetings. I would now like to ask for a motion in accordance with Board Policy 006.1 to allow virtual deliberation and voting.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Seamus and Mr. Weiss, second. Okay, all in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay. Dave, Mr. Goldberg, you are good to vote. We will hold off on the reports from the student board representatives and see if they are going to get here. And we will hear our reports from our board committees and board representatives. So we will begin with the Building and Grounds Committee with the chairman, Mr. Weiss.
Thank you, Mr. President, Pro Tem. So earlier we had the Buildings and Grounds Committee meeting. We approved the minutes from the April 25th meeting. We had one approval item, the approval of proposal for weatherproofing technology incorporated for the high school glass block wall repair, an amount not to exceed $250,482.51. That again is going to be applied on the north and south side of the building, and that was the lowest of the 3 bids. There were no discussion items. There was information items, the SEP plan, where we're starting to do the assessment for the school needs for the school year 2022-2023. And we are looking to do that in the June-July timeframe as we move forward. We had an update on the sewer grinder pump. The borough came back after they looked at our plan and had some additional requirements, and we're looking into that. And we went through a list of the summer projects that Mr. Gibson outlined. And that was the report that we had.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. And next is our Board Finance and Personnel Committee. And the chair is Mrs. Rook.
Okay.
Oh, Dave, Mr. Goldberg. Not really.
We're going to try to mic you right now, Mr. Goldberg. Try now, Mr. Goldberg.
Can you hear me? Can you guys hear me?
No. Try now.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Not yet, Mr. Goldberg. We hear you, but it's very faint.
Okay, so the reason I'm getting on the mic is because when we were taking each of you like in your own individual, through your own individual microphones. After the Pledge of Allegiance, all their microphones, like I could barely hear Jerry. Sounded like I was listening through just like a microphone for the whole room. It was very muffled.
Okay, we can hear you now through the sound system in the room. So, can you hear?
You can hear me?
Yep, we can hear you. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you again. And what I was saying was a few minutes ago when we were taking attendance, I could hear each of you individually through your own microphones. Then after we did the pledge, it's kind of like I couldn't hear you through your mics anymore. I couldn't hear. Jerry was all muffled, almost as if I was listening to everyone on one, like, general room microphone. But when you just spoke, assuming that was Scott, I was able to hear you directly, Scott.
Okay. Well.
So thank you.
Okay, excellent. Well, we will move on to Mrs. Rook with her Board and Finance.
Okay, the Personnel Committee is asking that the personnel report would be approved for tonight. There are resignations, appointments, leave requests, volunteers, and family medical leave, FMLA requests. So we'll have that on the agenda tonight for a voting item. As far as finance is concerned, there was approval of disbursement of district funds, acknowledgement of receipt of district financial reports. We're asking for approval of the 2022-23 Pennsylvania School Board Association membership renewal in the amount of $16,308.04. Excuse me. Approval of the CCIU Marketplace budget scheduled for 2022-23 school year. Approval of professional services contracts with Valbridge Property Advisors for a voting item for tonight. This is the group that will suggest properties that we need to look at as far as under-assessed properties. That's it. Thank you. And that's it for the Finance Committee. Oh, also, I'm sorry, Dr. Melber had given a report responding to questions from Mr. Mraz.
Excellent. Thank you very much. We'll now move to our board representative reports, and with the Chester County Intermediate Unit, Ms. Shimis.
Yeah, I'm going to go first with the Chester County School Authority Board meeting. That was a lot of basically talking about refunding, HVAC projects, Plan Con Part H approvals. So it was all kinds of passing kind of things that way. The Chester County Intermediate Unit Board meeting was held Wednesday, May 18th at the Pennox Bridge Technical High School in West Grove, PA, which is the furthest from Phoenixville. And I wanted to highlight Dr. Brian Hughes. He's the assistant principal of the TCHS Pennox Bridge. He gave a presentation in partnership with both Octorara and Oxford area school districts with welding. There's an opportunity to learn hands-on skills before leaving high school. Students can come in and learn how to weld a 3G plate and can get a job right out of high school. Located right at the Octorara High School, collaborating with Carpentry Department. They have made benches for a local park in the community. And every once in a while, as the CCIU board members, we get kind of gifts from students. And this was our gift, and I'm going to pass it around. It's welded by the kids. So, and each one had their own handle. It's a pretty hefty coffee mug, but this is just to show you what these kids can do. So that is my report. I'm going to pass it around.
Amazing. Thank you so much for that. And they should have given you enough for everyone here. Okay, I will give the legislative update. And we actually have a fairly significant piece of legislation that is unfortunately moving through the State House right now. For the first time ever, the House passed a voucher bill, and it's HB 2169, which is moving to the State Senate Education Committee on tomorrow, May 24th. So I encourage everyone in the audience or who's watching, and my fellow board committee members, to board directors, to reach out to our state legislators on this. This is a voucher bill that would take revenue from some of the most at-risk, at-need districts in the state and for any students K through 12, and bring that to private schools or other non-public education settings that have no oversight at all, and would really harm public education in some of those districts that are already struggling. It could cost $143 million annually from public school districts. And again, I think that the biggest piece of this for me is that there's just no academic accountability with these vouchers. So it's taking public tax dollars to any program with no idea of how it's actually being spent or how students are benefiting. So
What was the number of that bill?
that is HB 2169. They're calling it the Lifeline Scholarship Bill.
Thank you.
And that is my legislative report update. And Dr. Fegley will now give the superintendent's report.
Thank you very much, Mr. Overland. Earlier today at 10 o'clock, actually, 2 students were informed of some fantastic news for them. The class valedictorian and salutatorian were announced. Our salutatorian is Jordan Kahn. And there's her picture up there. She is going to be attending Cornell University. And this is the daughter of a former board member. And then the valedictorian is Olin. Congratulations to Olin, who will be going to Princeton University. He is one of 2 going to Princeton University this year from Phoenix-Hilaria School District. So congratulations to these 2. You'll be able to hear him speak at graduation. And as always, I expect to hear some really wonderful words from them. Our speeches have really been tremendous over the last few years. No pressure, though. I'm not giving them any pressure. Our next item is having a quick discussion and getting the will of the board with regards to moving these board meetings from the high school cafeteria to the district administration building and placing them back in the DAO. It would be a recommendation, if you so choose to do that, that we would continue to hold the committee meetings also in the boardroom, so we would not use the committee room for the meetings. We would keep both committee and the board meetings in the boardroom. It is a slightly larger space, but it is a much smaller space than this location. And that's something, just to make sure we are able to open up 3 doors, and Mr. Gibson can keep the air going very, very firmly. We have had up to 30 folks in there at this point. So, we are starting to use that again, but it's up to this board as to whether you'd like to move now or wait until the next time opportunity would be in August. That would be our next series of meetings. Thoughts?
So, from a broadcasting or television perspective, what capabilities are we looking at versus today and going forward?
No, very good question. The capabilities are much stronger over in the DAO. As a matter of fact, we could run it from the DAO with one. We don't want to, but we could actually run it with 1 person, but 2 people would be sufficient to do that. We have stationary cameras over there that are easy to move and monitor, and all the mics actually have the turn off, or the president can turn you off. So it makes it a little bit easier that way. It would be the one piece that we would need to do there, Mr. Weiss, is if we hold committee meetings there, in order to make sure, since we are now broadcasting our committee meetings, members of the public would still need to come up to a podium or some place to speak so they could be heard. Otherwise, they wouldn't be heard. You would hear them in the boardroom, but nobody else would hear them. So there's no fix for that. Everyone's going to have to use the mics, and that will be a difference. Even during committee meetings, we'll have to use your microphones.
And do you have you heard from Chester County Health about where we are on the matrix that we
absolutely know where we are? Chester County and all the surrounding counties are in high right now. That's the level that's been put out by the CDC and by Chester County. In talking with Chester County on Friday, they have not recommended the return to masking. That's why we are not, since we said we would follow their guidance per the health and safety plan. Although if you go around our buildings, you'll start seeing signs up that saying masks are recommended. Not required, but If you want to wear it, wear it. We'll support you in wearing it, or we'll support you in not wearing right now.
Thank you.
All right, I wrote a statement because I just thought, I'm just not sure. Frankly, since my term in December 2020, I was at the district admin office for only 2 months. Then the pandemic happened and we were on Zoom for a year or so. We came back to a record public participation for a variety of things. CRT, masking, vaccines, books that should be banned, taxpayer complaints on you name it. And then the K Center, where the people have been very passionate. In terms of having this in the cafeteria, while it costs more than the DAO office, it became apparent we were able to house and accommodate people, the public, in a more open space. And given the rise in COVID cases, the cafeteria fares far better than given the current situation and events. This is where I'm at right now. Just being conscientious of the public and the politicized nature of things and wanting to continue to accommodate and not really embracing a smaller space just yet. That's my opinion.
Thank you.
What's the room capacity?
The official room capacity is 65 or 70. However, if you start going to the 3 feet, 6 feet, you're going to be down to 20, to about 20 in the audience. And as board members, you know, for those who have sat at the board table, you're much closer. You're not getting any distance in between. You are, I'll almost call it chair to chair.
So my understanding is the last time we as a board voted on this, it was to move back to the DAO starting in June. So for us to continue to
That was the will at that time. I don't know.
That was the will of the board.
It wasn't really a vote.
Okay. So I guess I'm looking for what is the mechanism to say we would like to stay here, or is it a motion? Is it?
Yeah. All we have to do is go around the table and you say, I'm interested, or, you know, I want to stay or I want to go. Or cafeteria or DAO, I guess is the way we can say it. I'm just trying to get a sense of the boards.
And I guess I was impressed with Ms. Seamus's speech and being mindful of the public and allowing them to have a larger representation. I guess I'm in favor of staying where we are, at least until the next decision point, which is August or September, you said?
Our next meetings, the July meeting may or may not happen. That's why I keep that one out.
Yeah.
The next series of meetings are in August.
Okay.
That's when we come up back.
So I'm at least in favor of staying to that point in time and go.
So I hear kind of two stay here. I'm happy. You know, Scott, you can go, Mr. Overland, you can go around, or I'll just go around.
Yeah, I'm prepared to go back. I'm prepared for a return to normalcy. That room, the rooms that we were using before, were more than effective, you know, for a reason. They still work. The cost, it would save the taxpayers money to go back. I recognize, I agree with Ms. Seamus that there were times when there was, you know, that we definitely have more capacity in the room that we're, you know, in the cafeteria. And there have been lots of issues that people were interested in. But pragmatically, I can count on one hand how many times we actually needed a room that big. Even though there were things that people wanted to talk about, really the only couple times that, or 2 or 3 times that we even used up all the chairs in there was when was for the K Center. It's not as if, even though we had all the room, most of the time we didn't need it. And if we could save money and have one less person operate, operate the equipment, I really don't see, if we can send the students back to normal, then we can do the same thing for ourselves. There's no reason to spend extra money and manpower.
Okay. Seamus, I have you staying here.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Ms. Carmen.
Yeah. So I certainly hear what Ms. Seamus is saying, but I obviously have not been in the boardroom on this side of the table. But I earlier in some of the committee meetings, it was mentioned that there was the ability to have a little bit more of a conversation. And I certainly understand that people will still need to get up on a microphone to speak, but I just think the climate there kind of allows for a little bit more dialogue, especially during those committee meetings. So I would be on board with going over to the boardroom.
Thank you. Dr. Serini?
I would like to see us getting back to a sense of normalcy and going back to the boardrooms, although I'm mindful of Ms. Seamus's, and maybe we can find a happy medium of, when we begin that. Does it have to be June? No. Should it be August? Definitely by then. So I'm amenable to either and additional discussion. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I agree that it would be great to have that more ability to be a little more personal with the conversations with the audience, and just have a little bit more dialogue, which I think would be easier in the boardroom. Last year, and really every year, we've seen a big decline in cases in the summer. So hopefully that would be the case again if we're getting into any sort of pattern. So I would say maybe if we have a July meeting, start then. But I think, right now we are a little bit higher, so let's maybe hold off from the June ones and stay in here and then start
So you're
moving forward
more
July.
CAF, okay?
Excuse me, I'd be in favor of moving to the boardroom.
Okay. Mr. Weiss, I have you as staying in the CAF.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So,
Just wanted to make sure.
no, I think Ms. Carbonetto's had some good points too.
Ms. Walker? Ms. Walker?
I'm sorry. I'm also in favor of moving to the boardroom.
Okay, it looks like the board not sure where you had landed, Dr. Serini. It looks like the boardroom is the one that we're going to for June. Because I have 4 for the boardroom, I have 3 for the CAF. Unless I miscounted. So
I'd like to hear from our constituents who are here raising their hands, and can we?
Well, we're going to have a open public comment section right after this because this isn't an official. This isn't.
This
There's
is
a
not
misunderstanding. We agree with Ms. Seamus.
Okay. Okay.
I can clarify my position on that, since it's kind of coming down to,
well, if you change.
do we come or do we stay or do we go? I like I said, I'm in favor of going back, but with the timing of things, I would be amenable to waiting through June and then maybe starting in, if we're not going to have a July meeting, August in the boardroom, pending any updates on social distancing and whatnot.
Okay, so that would be then to hold off until July or August. Okay, so we'll do the June ones in here, and then in July, if we have a meeting, that'll move to the boardroom.
Thank you for the
and then
direction.
certainly.
Okay,
in August.
thank you.
Question, you said we might have one in July. Don't we have to have one to approve new appointees?
If we have the new appointees, yes. It's always contingent on having new appointees, but yes. Yeah. That's why I say if. We probably will. We usually do, but.
So
Okay.
I want to make sure I understand. Let me make sure I understand what we just decided. We're going back to we're in agreement majority wise to go back to the room. The only rub is when. Am I correct here?
We're staying, my understanding, the direction I have right now, Mr. Goldberg, is we're staying here through June, and then we're going to look at going back in July and August.
Yep, correct.
Well, when you say we're going to look at that, what do you mean? Are you that to say that we're going to decide that at our June meeting?
The board always has the ability to choose where they are going to hold their meetings. So yes, that's what I mean by that. But right now, it feels to me as if we're staying here in June and going back in July and August, unless I'm directed otherwise. Yeah.
Well, that's the flavor that I'm getting. But the whole point of my question is I'm trying to get a verification here. What we're talking about is we are going back, but we're going to go back as of the July meeting. Am I correct?
Yes, we're
Yes.
not going back for the June meeting.
That is correct.
Okay, I heard what Mr. Oberlin said, but not what Mr. Begley said.
I said yes, that is correct. We're going to go back in July unless directed otherwise.
All right, thank you.
And Dr. Finley, do we need to change the public announcements of the meeting? Do they have the location in it?
We will be changing the location
Okay,
of the
so
meetings, yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, next is the library board trustee vacancies. We spoke about this last time. There are 3 applicants for the 3 positions. I was coming back tonight to see if you wanted to interview the applicants or if you in June, at the first meeting in June, wanted to vote. If you want to interview, we will hold a meeting prior to the board meeting so that you can interview them. If you wish to vote based off of their resumes, you'll vote. But again, I remind the board we have 3 applicants for 3 positions.
The library board is good with these 3 applicants,
Yes,
is that correct?
they have approved all of them, yes.
Okay. I, for one, who have been on the library board before, would like to say if it's fine with them, it's fine with me.
I agree with Ms. Rook.
Being
I
5
also
nodding
agree.
heads.
I agree too.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I
We'll
agree.
have them. I'll have them for you for a vote in June. Thank you. At this time, I'd like to introduce Dr. Melber, who will give a presentation on the general budget. As he is coming up, though, even though Ms. Wright couldn't be here today, she did send a nice note to her principal. I'll read it. Hi, Dr. Scioli. I'm sitting at my desk at my engineering internship right now, and my boss just emailed me saying that I'm an efficient and hard worker. They have pointed out my problem-solving skills and my attention to detail. I credit this to Phoenixville. Going to school in our district and the opportunities given me at the high school provided me with an education that prepared me for where I am working now. I am so thankful for what our school has taught me, and I'm honored to have grown up there. I hope all is well at the high school. I miss you guys. Aubrey Wright. So congratulations to her. She's doing well at her engineering job and learning a lot. Dr. Melber.
Thank you. Last month, the board approved the proposed final. Tonight, we're bringing for approval the final budget adoption for the 2022-2023 fiscal year. The 2022-2023 proposed final budget, we still have a total revenue projected at $102,628,436. Total expenditures projected at $103,521,355. That leaves us with a deficit of $892,919. At the last meeting for the proposed final, the board did approve a 0.99% tax increase. Since that time, we did get the homestead farmstead exclusion numbers in from the state, which we'll talk about in a second. But because that is considered tax revenue 100% collectible, it throws off our numbers a little bit. We did talk before about using $200,000 of fund balance for the capital reserve transfer. Now that we have a large increase in the homestead farmstead exclusion, that number, the 0.99% tax increase works out to about $486, which would leave the use of fund balance at $198,433 for the capital reserve transfer. The homestead farmstead exclusion, this is the gaming money that Pennsylvania collects from gambling revenue and then is passed on to school districts. That money has to be 100% passed on to taxpayers through their tax bills through people that qualify for the homestead farmstead exclusion. In order to qualify, the resident must live in an owner-occupied property. If it's a mixed-use property, meaning people that particularly may run a business out of their home or live in a commercial property, the portion where the owner resides could be considered for the homestead exclusion. We did look at some of the numbers with what we have. We have 8,306 approved homestead exemptions in the district and 7 approved farmstead exemptions. That represents 95% of all eligible properties that are claiming the exclusion. There's about 411 that could possibly claim the exclusion and does not. We do a mailing every year to all homes that throw up a flag with the assessment office as possibility of claiming the exclusion. We do send in a mailer and they have the opportunity to send an application in. The county assessment office does handle all that for us and they are the ones that determine whether or not the home qualifies. So 95% of all eligible property owners within our district do claim this exclusion. Phoenixville's 2022-2023 allocation is $1,693,388. That's an increase over last year of $281,000. This is the first significant increase that school districts are seeing for this allocation since the program began. So what that means for our taxpayers with the 8,306 approved homestead and the 7 farmstead, during the 2021-2022, their exemption was $168.68. This money is directed directly off of everyone's tax bill. Because of the increase, the 2022-2023 exemption is going to be $203.84. So that's a $35.16 increase for everyone that is in this program. What that means for the budget and for our tax increase, again, this money must flow through directly to the taxpayers. This isn't a boost necessarily for the school district. However, as we discussed, once we got the homestead numbers in, we also got our new median assessed value in for the district. I believe when we reported last month, it was about $138,000. The 2022-2023 average median assessed value in our school district is $144,000. So that basically means if your home has a fair market value of around $320,000 multiplied by the common level ratio of Chester County, that would put your assessment at about $144,000. A 0.99% tax increase is an additional 0.3199 mils. That means for the median taxpayer, that would be an increase of $46.07 per year. What that means with the homestead farmstead exemption, if you qualify, that particular taxpayer is seeing a tax bill increase of $46.07. They're also going to see an increase in their exclusion of $35.16, which means the median assessed taxpayer will see an increase of $10.91 per year for the 2022-23 budget. I kind of ran some numbers to see what our break-even point was, and that is an assessed value of $109,890. That equates to a fair market value of $244,200. So if someone has an assessed value of $109,890, they're basically going to see a $35.16 increase in property taxes, but they're also going to see that increase in their homestead farmstead. So basically they'll see a $0 increase for 22-23. Anybody that has an assessment under that will actually see a tax reduction in their tax base or in their taxable revenue. So with that, there are the farmstead homestead resolution on the board agenda for approval tonight in order to grant the homestead farmstead exclusions as well as the taxing resolution. Any questions?
Yes, sir. What percentage of, you mentioned that 95% of those who applied for the exemption eventually qualified for the exemption. What percentage of our homeowners qualify for that exemption? Is that the same number overall?
Yeah, the county doesn't break it out that far. We did have some conversations with the county last week. Those were the closest numbers we can get. They looked at what they consider commercial versus residential versus mixed use, and those are the numbers that we were able to drill down on.
Okay, and I want to ask one other clarifying question. On the slide, I guess it was your first slide after the title slide with the proposed final budget guy on in the box there, it has use for fund balance, the 198,433.
Right.
That would be what would go into the capital reserve.
So at the end of the day, it's all one pot of money, but yes,
Right.
we are budgeting a $300,000 transfer to capital reserve. The board had decided under the proposed budget to use $200,000 of fund balance for that. So yes, that's what would be used for the capital reserve transfer.
So with the change in the homestead farmstead, instead of just having 100,000 going in, we're going to have the 198.
No, we were going to have 200,000 going in.
200,000.
So when we got
Okay.
the 1.6 million, that comes off of your tax revenue, which is a 96.6% collection rate, and automatically now becomes 100% collectible because we're getting that money from every taxpayer. So that throws some of the numbers off, which is why it's the 198,000.
Okay.
Because
Okay.
that 1.6 million is considered 100% collectible.
So it's only about a little over $2,000 different from what we were talking about last month.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
I just want to say that I'm very happy with where we landed here. I think that for everyone who doesn't know, I think the board knows this, but we are the second lowest tax increase in Chester County. We were the lowest, but one district that had been raising taxes a lot to build new schools decided to
Same as last year.
stop. I know, but I'm thrilled that we're the second lowest, and I'm really excited that most or a large number of our homeowners are going to see a really minimal tax increase, and some of our lowest income and really hardworking families that are struggling the most are going to actually see a decrease in their tax bill. So I'm really excited that we're able to do that and have a budget that still makes really solid investments in our schools, in our teachers, and our students, and our technology, and sets us up for a really successful future here in Phoenixville. So I'm excited about where we landed with this budget, and I'm going to definitely be proud to support it. Any other questions or comments?
Thank you.
Okay. Dr. Fegley, do you have anything else in your report?
That's all. Thank you.
And I also, because you had that email from Ms. Wright, just wanted to say also on behalf of the board, even though she's not here, how grateful we are for her 2 years of service to the board. And I know for me personally, I think for most of the board members, it's probably the highlight of the meeting to hear what's going on in the schools, hear what the students are thinking, and having that student perspective has been incredibly valuable for me, certainly. So big thank you to Ms. Wright, and a best of luck and congratulations to her next year. So we will now take comments on consent agenda items. And as a reminder, we're utilizing the sign-in sheets for the comment period and calling members of the public to the microphone. Comments are limited to 1 3-minute opportunity per individual. And Ms. Longo, you are our first commenter.
Mr. Overland, before you get started,
Sure.
Can you hear me?
We can.
I'm going to have a motion. I don't have the agenda in front of me because I'm out of town. But I'm going to make a motion to bring the budget issue to handle that one first. And if that motion was to be successful, then we would need to open up public comments, not only consent agenda items, but also that item as well. And if that's successful, then I think that we would have to have open up public comment on both now.
Okay, so the motion is to amend the agenda to move up the budget roll call item to now, and then that would require can we combine that public comment with this, or okay? So we combine that public comment.
Yeah, and candidly, the main reason I'm asking for this is not out of laziness, but I'm out of town doing this over Zoom, and I don't know how much longer I'm going to be able to stay on anyway. So I'd like to get that matter, I guess, out of the way, for lack of better terms.
We would never assume it's out of laziness, Mr. Goldberg. Is there a second to his motion?
Second.
Okay, Ms. Walker. Is there any discussion?
My concern is I'm happy to vote earlier, but I think we should try to wait as long as possible and give people who might be coming to the latter public comment a chance to get here, should anyone want to comment on that. I completely understand Mr. Goldberg's potential concern with Wi-Fi, but if by moving up the vote, if someone is coming and expecting it at the end, a lot of people are still working, and we don't have a chance to hear them. That's my only concern. So I just want to say that for the record. Thank you.
And we have already pulled the roll call sign-in sheet, and there is also the open comment period will continue to be at the end as well for anyone who wants to.
I agree with you, Dr. Srini, but it's not as if these items are listed at particular times throughout the night. The meeting starts at 7, and all items are open. I understand what you're saying. Logistically, people might not be getting there yet, but I guess, in contra that, I guess what I'm saying is that there is no there is no times to our itinerary.
Right, but the agenda is showing a roll call vote at the end, and that topic not being able to be discussed at the first public comment section, which is limited to consent agenda items. So should
They
someone...
actually opened it up to roll call and consent.
Pardon?
The motion was to open it up to roll call and consent. So
But not vote. Are we voting at consent or at roll call?
we're voting. The motion was to have the discussion now on both roll call and consent, and vote now on the roll
Right.
call.
That's
roll
my
call.
concern. That's my concern, is that
Okay,
we're
I was
basically
just clear.
moving up the vote, and we're originally publishing it as a roll call item at the end and a discussion item at the end. Therefore, no, people are not expecting to come sooner. I'm just stating that for the record, so that if someone should be en route to discuss this, we are effectively not giving them an opportunity by moving it up, with the premise of potentially Mr. Goldberg losing Wi-Fi, which I totally get and I understand and I appreciate. But I'm suggesting we should, potentially consider that we had it as a roll call item at the very end of the agenda, and that we are effectively changing the agenda. And if we're going to do that, we may as well add the agreement of sale that I had asked to be put on the agenda as well, and accommodate
It's not what
everyone.
we're discussing now, but we are going to vote. We'll have a roll call vote, so everyone can be on the record, and I understand that. But we're 45 minutes into the agenda now, and some of our meetings have only been going 45 minutes at this point. So if someone was going to want to comment, hopefully they'd make it here. So there's a motion and a second. Dr. Whitehead, would you please call the roll?
Yes, I'll now call the roll on the motion to amend the agenda as described. Ms. Ruck,
Yes.
Ms. Seamus,
Yes.
Mr. Goldberg,
Yes.
Ms. Carmenito,
Yes.
Dr. Serini,
No.
Ms. Walker,
Yes.
Mr. Weiss,
Yes.
Mr. Overland.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, so we will now have the public comment on the consent agenda items and the budget roll call vote item. So, Ms. Longo, thank you for your patience.
Did I turn it on? Yes, I did. I only asked that these be two separate public comments, so it would be a total of 6 minutes, since it is two separate items. If I go that long, I'm not saying I will. I try not to. Okay, on the consent agenda items, I think one thing I've noticed is that public comments from the committees are not always brought forward to the full board. And I think it's really important that that happen. So with regard to two items on the consent agenda, the first being the approval of the renewal to the Pennsylvania School Board Association, the only thing I want board members to recognize is what happened with PSBA leaving NSBA. And while I'm not recommending we don't renew, I am recommending that you take a stand. I know there was a resolution passed, but I think it's a conversation that needs to happen
It's not
again.
on the consent agenda.
I thought that was on the consent agenda.
It was a possible item, but it's been held for next time. So it's actually not listed on this consent agenda, unless I missed something.
So these agendas are getting very confusing.
No.
Okay, I apologize. I thought
No.
that was on your consent agenda. And then item 4, is that also not on the consent agenda?
I don't know what item 4 is. If you could
So
say it.
item 4 is the approval of the professional service contracts with Valbridge. Is that on the consent agenda? Because they're
Yes,
in the same.
that is on the consent agenda.
Okay, well, on the agenda, these are listed in the same area. So then there's a problem with the agenda. And I've noticed this on other agendas because the workshop meeting, where the agendas have just gotten not great. Okay. So anyway, item 4 is the approval of the professional service contract. It was brought up that while this contract is $4,000 a year, there is an additional hourly charge of up to $425 an hour for someone to attend a hearing. And I didn't see that discussed, and if I missed the meeting, I apologize, but I think before you guys vote on that, it's worth a discussion, so perhaps you want to remove that to another meeting. Do you want me to go right into the budget now? Okay. So on the budget presentation, I'm going to bring up again that when we had big surpluses and the ESSR money, that there was no conversation around going to the discussion of the community tax budget rebate. This was a program that was proposed when I was on the board as far back as 2018 or 2019, I think. And it was a program that would allow us to reimburse volunteers and give them a credit back on their property taxes. It would really help retired taxpayers, disabled taxpayers, because not only could they do it, but family members or neighbors could come and do it on their behalf. And in a year when we had these surpluses, I'm really sad that this wasn't brought forward. We can do it in two ways. You can do it as a budget line item, but a better way would be to follow the model of the state college school district, which is one of the best in the state, by the way. They do it in an annual resolution. And what that resolution says is we're going to put X number of dollars, we're going to set it aside for this program. For example, you could set aside $10,000. And when the $10,000 is gone, the budget, the program closes. You could also set aside $100,000. It would totally be up to the board, and it's an annual resolution, which is why I really liked it. I believe I've sent the board copies of what we were drafting in 2019, but if you'd like to see it, it's not too late for you to do it for this year because it's outside of your budget approval, and I really hope you'll consider it because I think it'll help our taxpayers. I'm sorry, I have to go back and read. The other question I had is with regard to when we keep our tax increases at something like a 0.99, was there an in-depth conversation about costs that increase more than 0.99? So for example, I know there are increases in the budget that were more than that. So often what happens in this year, if we had a surplus, and I asked that question in finance, but we didn't have a number. But what might happen in the future is we have to curtail programs or even lay off staff. So for example, if energy costs increase 10% and your tax increase is only 1%, you've got to make up that difference somewhere. Transportation costs. Not food is a bad example in a school district, but staff costs, medical costs, healthcare costs, all of these costs are going to go up more than 0.99%. And at some point, you are going to feel that pinch, and it comes down to who do we lay off? So again, please be really aware that I love low tax increases too. I live in this town. I pay the same taxes as everyone else, but I don't want to hurt the students, and I don't want to see us reduce programs or staff. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Longo. Anybody else, since we added the roll call item, that did not sign in that would like to comment on that or the consent agenda? Okay, Doctor.
I have a comment. Oh, do we have another member from
Ms.
the
Berger?
community?
Consent agenda or roll call? Or the single roll call of the budget?
Yeah, I had a question about the budget and taxes. I just got...
Can you just state your name and township?
Lori Broker, Schuylkill Township. I got in the mail the other day something in the neighborhood of bills for $1,300 for each of my, well, for my husband, but for also my 3 children. It was over almost $1,000 for my 3 children for per capita and occupational taxes. Is that being figured into this 0.99%, figure that's being bandied around? Because that's a pretty significant amount of money for my household. I also tried to call Keystone, and it was strange to me that they had you press a button specifically for Phoenixville Area School District of all the school districts, because I guess they get a number of complaints about this. But anyway, the bottom line is we have 3 kids. That's $1,000. There are families with many more kids. And I don't even understand how this figure is reached. It's very strange. And I just wonder how that, is it a little bit misleading to talk about taxes when you're not factoring in these local taxes? The second thing is that there are other local taxes that you can implement that would shift the burden from the local taxpayers onto people coming from the outside And that includes the entertainment tax, which is something I was pushing for, which could be a small tax on people who come for different events. I mean, the Blob Festival, I think, gets like 5,000 people, and people come from out of state. So why don't you, if you're going to be implementing municipal taxes, look at all the different options that are available, and stop, just looking to the people who live here. You don't have to do that.
30 seconds.
Wow, that's really almost 6 minutes already? Okay. The second thing is, I'm just wondering what you guys have done, if you're going to be adopting a budget, what have you guys done in terms of implementing the recommendations of the Auditor General LEA Division's performance audit, because they made some pretty significant findings. Among these are that the numbers that came out over the past several years are not reliable. The financial information coming up from administration is not reliable. And they laid out, basically, if you look in the margins, they lay out a roadmap of instructions for the board to follow to make sure that you have reliable numbers. And that's kind of, it's on you guys at this point. Now that you know, it's on you guys. That's really, I guess I don't have a lot of time. I have more comments. I do also want to, well, I'll leave that till the end. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments on the budget or consent agenda? Okay. Dr.
I have
Fenton?
a consent agenda comment in general.
Okay.
For the board secretary's report, the meeting minutes, I'm noticing that the prior broadcasts for the school board meetings are being removed from the district website. I sent Mr. Weiss an email earlier, just as an example, that I saw right before coming here. And my understanding is that administration is deleting videos once minutes are approved. So I just want to make sure that the meeting videos are available for the 14th and 28th, because I'm only seeing a few of them on the portal. And I'm concerned because we're taking down videos. There's really no reason in terms of storage. And we're voting on minutes, and we still can't cross-check them, nor can the public. So I'd like to state that, and I'd like to, again, clarify what the practice is and what we're doing with these videos. Are we keeping them? Are we purging them completely? Are they retrievable? Are we just removing them to keep the site cleaner? Do we want to continue doing that? Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Fegley, did you want to make any responses?
Sure. The minutes, the videos are removed and destroyed after all the minutes are approved. The minutes are the official record of the board. So that's when those videos are destroyed. On the per capita, I don't know that you were necessarily talking about the per capita, Mrs. Broker, because the per capita taxes I am looking at is $5 per person. Maybe you were talking about a different tax. So that's a possibility. But the per capita tax is $5 on each individual over the age of 18. And then just there was the point being made that, and I guess it was a question as to whether or not there were layoffs in this budget. There are no layoffs in this budget. There have been no layoffs at all since 2010. And so this budget is a full budget, and it covers all positions. As a matter of fact, it actually expands 6 positions.
Dr. Fegley, you responded to 2 points. One point was the board meeting minutes and the destruction of the board meeting videos. If you look at the district website right now, you'll see that there are 3 recordings available, April 18th, April 25th, and May 9th. Yet on our agenda this evening, we are approving meeting minutes for March 14th, March 28th, and the aforementioned date. I'm concerned about this practice of taking these videos down, especially when the board meetings of the 14th of March and 28th of March discussed the sale of the Toll Brothers property. Are you telling me that you've taken them down and that they're purged?
Well, I personally have not taken anything down, but please, if I may, what is the
I didn't ask you if you personally took them down.
No, well,
I'm asking you if they're removed and destroyed.
What I'm saying is, once by policy and procedure, once the minutes are approved, then at that point they are taken down and destroyed. Yes, that's what I'm saying.
What is the status of the March 18th and
I'm
the
going to have
March?
to look into that. You're asking me now. I don't know.
I don't understand why you don't know when we have board meeting minutes that are not even approved yet, and you're telling me that the policy is to take it down. That's not acceptable. Our job is to be transparent, and you're failing at it, and you're not helping us. How are you helping the board stay compliant when things are being destroyed left and right?
Dr. Fegley, you indicated, and I think I already know this, but I'll ask you anyway, or I'll reaffirm, these videos are typically not taken down until the board minutes are approved. Is that correct?
That is the policy and the procedure, yes.
Okay. Are those minutes ever destroyed?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the last part of your question.
Those minutes, in other words, the minutes
are never destroyed. The minutes are kept forever.
Okay, so then I guess arguably, or I guess maybe not arguably, literally, it's not as if records are being destroyed. What's going on here is that a transcript, or the transcript, if you will, or the minutes, those live on forever. Those aren't being destroyed. If someone wanted access to every word that we said, they would have it by looking at those minutes. Is that accurate?
Mr. Goldberg, in this instance, the fact that we haven't voted on meeting minutes.
I didn't hear Dr. Fegley's answer.
I'm clarifying what you just asked Dr. Fegley to include that what I'm saying is that the videos are not on the website any longer, and we have not approved the minutes. So effectively, if in fact they're destroyed and we haven't approved minutes, we don't have any record of what occurred on March 14th and March 28th. And by the way, why are we destroying these videos anyway? What if they're subject to a litigation hold or some other litigation or anything? Why these and why not others?
I understand, Dr. Serini, and I don't disagree with you regarding specific instances that you're referring to. I don't know if they happen or not, but I'd like to find out that myself. But what I'm asking is, policy-wise, or what happens is the minutes are taken of the recordings. Therefore, even if the recordings are destroyed, there still is record of every word we said. Is that correct or is that incorrect, Dr. No, I'm asking Dr. Fegley. Dr. Fegley. No, I'm asking Dr. Fegley. Can you let him answer?
The minutes are kept from the recordings. They are taken from the recordings. Actually, they're often taken from here, but then they're checked by the recordings. The minutes are then kept, and by law, they are kept forever.
Okay, so there is a recording, one way or another, of every word that's being said. Am I correct?
Of every word, no.
When I'm saying recording, I mean
word.
I don't mean by vid. I don't mean when I say recording, I don't mean just by video. There's also the minutes are the original recording, if you will.
So I think there's two issues. One, that we should see what happened here and look into this, because if these were taken down, that is a violation of the policy, as I understand it, prior to the meetings being approved. So we should absolutely look into that.
Thank you.
And then I think, there's a valid issue of if we want to keep videos for longer than that, and that's a matter for Mr. Goldberg and the policy committee to take up, and we absolutely can.
Well, I don't think it needs to start there. I tried to take that up with the records destruction policy, and it didn't get beyond that. This is really a board level decision that we can discuss at a board meeting. It's certainly a good starting point, but if we're going to discuss board meeting minutes and records destruction, then we should in fact also include student records in that same
All-
conversation.
All policies start in the policy committee, so I think and it
Actually,
sounds
this
like Mr.
isn't even a
Goldberg-
written policy. This
Well,
is a policy.
if we want-
Let me just explain that this policy that Dr. Fegley is referring to is an administrative level
I said
policy.
it was policy and procedure. I was very clear about what I said.
and
Let me.
certainly-
Am I wrong? I just want. I apologize if I'm wrong, but am I misunderstanding the policy? Because I thought it was that it is an administrative level decision. Because when I asked you about this several months ago, I believe I have an email from you that it was decided by administration, not any board cohort voted to allow administration to destroy video recordings. Am I correct?
It was from the recommendations of legal, yes. And yes, it was
Wait.
it was,
Let me ask you a yes/no
please-
question, because I don't know what you're saying yes to. Is it an administrative level decision to destroy these videos? Yes or no?
It is an administrative decision
It is, yes,
procedure.
thank you. It's an administrative
Followed-
procedure,
and we
therefore it's not a
followed
policy.
Legal, and we followed legal.
So perhaps, Mr.
recommendations.
Overland, we should put it at the policy committee, like you just suggested. And with that in mind, I'm going to move that we put the policy of destroying video recordings from board meetings, board workshops, and board committees on the next policy committee agenda for discussion, since it's an administrative procedure, and I asked for this before for the record. So do we need a second?
Okay, yes, we would need a second, or certainly Mr. Goldberg can make that decision for his committee.
So you just recommended that, so I hope you seconded it.
I would like to talk to Mr. Goldberg about it, and
Great.
you know, I'm not opposed to the idea, but
Do
I
we
think
not
that
need a
that's-
second before we have a discussion? I'm just asking because I'm not clear.
I'm not.
I'm going to jump in here. I don't know that the board can make a motion compelling a committee to tackle an item like that.
Okay, well, there's a motion, and is there a second?
But if it, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Mr. Goldberg was asking if the, as I guess we'll say, a point of information, whether the full committee could instruct a individual committee to put an item on the agenda. The answer is yes, Mr. Goldberg, if you couldn't hear that.
Thank you.
Certainly, the full board could direct that a particular committee consider an item, of course. So, as I understand where we are, Dr. Serena has made a motion to place on
yes.
the agenda for consideration. So we were looking to see whether there was a second for Dr. Serena's motion.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mrs. Ruck.
Okay, is there a discussion? Any discussion?
Yeah, I have just a clarifying question. Is the motion addressing and limited to the videos, or are we trying to fit everything under this? Any potential anything? Because we do have policies for
So
certain
my motion would,
records.
thank you, Mr. Weiss. To clarify, my motion in this instance is to add the administrative procedure of destroying board meeting videos to the policy committee agenda. However, as a side note to that's my motion.
That is the motion.
That's the motion,
okay.
to clarify. However, but during the policy committee, I hope that we can look broadly at what we're allowing administration to do in general with our records, and records do include everything from board meeting recording to
let's
okay, but the motion, I just want to get clarification on what we're voting on. I don't want to be voting on what you desire.
When we go, no, thank you. The motion, as I clarified, is to discuss the administrative procedure, not policy, the administrative procedure for discussion.
Okay.
And then at that time, I'm not
Is there
rephrasing the motion. At that point, we may discuss the broader practices.
Thank you, Dr. Serena. You clarified the point.
Okay. Is there any other discussion on this? Yeah, there was already a second. Okay.
Well, I could just save everybody a lot of time here and direct Dr. Fegley to put the policies that pertain to this as a discussion item on the August policy committee, and just easy peasy.
Okay.
If you want to, Dr. Srini, if you want to withdraw the motion, I'll do that anyway, and we can just move on.
Thank you.
Okay, but so there is the motion and second, so you would have to. Do you want to withdraw?
I'll withdraw my motion. Thank you, everyone.
Okay. Okay, we will now take a motion to approve the consent agenda items. Is there a motion?
So moved.
I'd like to
Seamus?
make
There
a motion that we remove the minutes.
Already been a motion
Second.
made and a second.
Who's the second?
Ms. Walker.
Thank you.
Ms. Seamus, Ms. Walker. Doc, is there discussion on the consent agenda items?
Yeah, I'd just like to make something clear on the science curriculum that
Yes.
I mentioned to Dr. Climate that I would really like to see a pathway written that freshmen can take chemistry and do not automatically have to take physical science so that they are prepared to take AP biology the next year.
That has been put in. It
Okay,
will be
so
done.
that will
Yes.
definitely be in there.
Yes.
Okay. And they'll be informed of that.
Yes.
Okay.
Dave wants
Okay.
to speak.
Dave wants to speak?
I think we lost.
We may have lost Dave. Okay.
Can I make-
Mr. Goldberg, can you hear us?
He is. It's going to take a minute.
Any other comments while we're waiting for Mr. Goldberg?
Yeah, on.
Oh.
He's back? Okay.
I just got back in.
Okay. Yep, you are recognized. Did you have a comment?
Who, me?
Oh, okay. Anybody? Mr. Royce?
I just wanted to comment on, also I had a discussion with exchange of emails with Dr. Fagley, discussion with Dr. Kilmetz about the science curriculum, and that the curriculum is a very large system, if you will. And I know we have mechanisms in place for individualizing a particular student's schedule and help if they I'll say help if they need it, or help guide them on what the academic requirements may be for their particular goals, so that they can align their class schedules so that they are on a path that will help them succeed to those goals. And I wanted to thank Dr. Kilmetz and Dr. Fagley because of having those things, and that we will be placing, I was assured we will be placing awareness of those things in the program of studies, which comes out later in the calendar year, actually approved at the beginning of January typically. And so that anyone chart in there may be, it's a baseline representation that is customized, can be customized depending on particular students and their situations. So I appreciated the flexibility that the administration was showing there, and the assurances that parents and students will be aware that those options are open to them.
Great. I did just have one question on the Val Bridge, because I do think that hourly fee point, just to clarify on that, have we had to bring, and maybe Dr. Melber, have we had to bring them in yet? No? Okay. So is that something that happens often, that they have to come in? The Val Bridge, yes.
I actually worked with Mr. Fazio. I actually was the one that procured Valbridge. I looked at 6 or 7 different companies across the county, across the area. And Valbridge, and I believe, Ms. Longo, you were on the board when we voted, and that hourly fee was actually in that at that time in the original Valbridge contract. Never, to my knowledge, no district has ever had to activate that. It's only in a case of extreme litigation where that hourly fee would actually occur. It's very
Okay.
rare. And correct. And the amount of funds that they actually bring in greatly exceeds the rate at which you pay in terms of the.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that wasn't something that was
I just wanted to
being
clarify
used constantly, or that they. Okay, excellent. Thank you. Okay, any other comments on the consent agenda? Okay, Dr. Whitehead, will you call the roll?
Very good. I'll now call the roll on the consent agenda. Ms. Seamus.
Yes.
Mr. Goldberg.
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Carmenito.
Yes.
Dr. Serini.
Curriculum Committee, item number 6, let the abstention that I'm about to enter reflect that I will be abstaining because that particular item appears to be a case in which I testified for the plaintiff. So abstention for Curriculum Committee number 6 for that purpose. Remaining items, nay. Thank you.
Ms. Walker.
Okay, just real quickly, you voted against approving the high school graduates. Are you aware of that? Yes. Okay, that's fine. Just making.
Yes, there's a discrepancy on there that I was asking Dr. Fegley and Dr. Whitehead about, and they weren't able to address it. So I don't know what it means, and I'm not voting in support of it.
Just making sure you understand that.
Yes, I do. Thank you for the clarification, Mr.
Ms.
Oberlin.
Walker.
Aye.
Mr. Weiss.
Yes.
Ms. Rook.
Yes.
And Mr. Overland.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, and now we will move to the budget. Is there a motion to... He just wanted for... Okay, so may I have a motion to approve the resolution adoption of the district's 2022-2023 proposed final budget in the amount of $103,521,355 with an increase of 0.99%.
So moved.
Ms. Seamus, is there a second?
Second.
I have a motion.
Mrs. Rook, seconded. So there is this motion on the table now. Mr. Goldberg, do you have a comment?
I have a motion.
Are you okay? What was your motion?
My motion is to approve a budget with 0.77% tax increase.
There's a motion and a second on the table, Mr. Goldberg. Are you trying to amend that motion?
You know what? I'm sorry. You're breaking. You're broken up. I heard Scott, Mr. Overland asked if there was any motions, so I made a motion for 0.77.
Mr. Goldberg, are you attempting to amend the motion that's on the floor regarding the budget adoption?
I'm sorry. I didn't hear that there was a motion on the floor.
Yes. So there's a motion.
I thought I was making an opening motion. There was already a motion on the table.
There's a motion on the table to adopt the budget resolution as presented this evening. Are you making a motion to amend this resolution to reduce the tax increase?
Well, I guess I will now. Yeah, I didn't realize it was already a motion on the table. I thought it was first out of the gate. If there's already a motion on the table that's been seconded, then I'm going to make a motion to make an amendment.
Okay. Is there a second on the motion to change the tax increase to 0.77%? Okay. There's no second, so we will continue with any discussion on the original motion. Is there any discussion? Can you hear us, Dave? Do you hear what just happened? Mr. Goldberg, sorry.
You can call me Dave. I heard you ask if there was any discussion. That's the last thing I heard.
Yep, that's all. That's all there was. Just making sure we've got you. And I'll just reiterate, we talked about it briefly earlier, but I do support this. I think this is a good budget and invests in our community and the school district while making sure that it's a reasonable tax increase, particularly given the rate of inflation at this point. I think we're doing a good job, and I commend the administration for putting the budget together that's very responsible in this way. So thank you. Any other discussion? Okay. Dr. Whitehead, can you
Okay,
please
I'll
call
now
the
call
roll?
the roll for the budget adoption as defined.
Wait. Aren't we supposed to have a public comment on that first?
We already
We
did.
included-
Oh, we already did.
Okay, I'll now call the roll. Ms. Walker,
Aye.
Ms. Seamus,
Yes.
Dr. Serini,
Nay.
Mr. Weiss,
Aye.
Ms. Carmenito,
Yes.
Ms. Rook,
Yes.
Mr. Goldberg,
No.
and Mr. Overland.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, and at this point, we will welcome public comments. Well, this is a roll call.
On the roll call items.
On the roll call items,
We're
yes.
up to join the roll call items now, yes.
And we just pulled out the one previously. So this is now on the two remaining roll call items of the homestead farmstead exclusion and the tax levy resolution. We had no
And the appointment of treasurer.
the appointment of treasurer.
Yeah.
We had no one sign up for comments for this second roll call. Does anyone like to comment? Okay. Then we will take nominations for board treasurer to fill the 1-year vacancy for a term from July 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2022.
I nominate Dr. Melber.
Okay, is there a second?
Second?
Okay, Mr. Rice is nominated and Mrs. Rook seconded. Discussion.
Question. Who's eligible for this position?
Do you want to, who's eligible?
Who is eligible? It is anyone. It could be literally almost anyone in the community.
So anyone in the public can.
Yes. That now I would sit there and say you want to have certain qualifications, etc. But if you're and go through that, so this is an open nomination.
But I believe we're moving to
We have a
different classification. Isn't that correct? And we have to have somebody like Dr. Melberg.
In the future, it used to be when we are still a class 3. At that point, it could be a board member, or it could be somebody else. Once you become class 2, it must be somebody else. It cannot be a board member. It cannot be a superintendent. It cannot be a teacher. It cannot be an assistant superintendent. That's what the law states out.
Okay, well, we do have a nomination with a second. So is there any discussion on Dr. Melber as the nominee?
Yeah, I have a comment.
Any other are there any other nominations? Sorry.
Well, before we do that, I'd like to comment on the first one.
Usually you try to get all the nominations out first.
Okay.
Okay.
I was just unclear because Mr. Overland just said we were having a discussion.
My
So are we?
apologies. It's my first treasurer nomination process. Okay, any other nominees? Okay, seeing none, would you like to?
Thank you.
Yes.
A concern I have with nominating the business manager in the capacity of treasurer is that it does not provide for controls. Who does the business manager report to? Dr. Fegley. Dr. Fegley reports to us. Last week, Dr. Fegley's direct report was sentenced to jail for embezzling $94,000. We still haven't held Dr. Fegley accountable. How is that? How is nominating Dr. Melber, who reports to Dr. Fegley, whose prior direct report is going to jail for stealing from our students, how is that proper controls? I was treasurer before, and on the very day that I tried to hold Dr. Fegley accountable by statute, and before any of us vote to allow Dr. Melber to be treasurer, let me remind you that the very day I tried to hold Dr. Fegley accountable, by requesting bank statements, original invoices, financial statements. The prior board removed me effectively by voting to have the then interim business manager serve as treasurer to onboard this gentleman. Yet, look at the Auditor General report. And if you don't remember it, take a look at it and defer this item before you vote him who reports to him, whose prior direct report is going to jail. We can't do this. I don't care if it's allowed by statute. I don't care what happens when we get to a different size. This is not proper controls. We have way too many red flags.
I would have to agree with Dr. Serini to a point. And Dr. Melber, this is no reflection on you and your work, and nor a reflection on Dr. Fagley. But I would have to say this does concern because I don't feel it allows for proper oversight and control. I don't believe that this position should be an employee of the district.
Okay. Well, we do have only the one nomination at this point, so
I would like to nominate Ms. Walker for a position of treasurer.
is there a second?
You can second yourself.
Can I deny that?
Deny it. You don't want it?
You don't
Okay.
want to do it?
No, thank you. No.
Okay.
You don't want to do it?
No, she's not.
Okay.
I'd rather nominate Mr. Mraz.
Okay. Well, you can nominate me if you would like.
Okay.
And that is really a shame, because why? I'm the one sitting here to hold him accountable, and I can't get a nomination, and that's a shame. So, Mr. Mraz, looks like we're going to have to nominate you. Yeah. Because people are afraid of transparency, frankly.
We currently have one nomination with a second. And is there was that an actual nomination?
Myself or Ms. Walker?
No,
It sounds with
Mraz.
Mr. Mraz.
Oh, okay, would there be a second?
Yeah, if I thought he would take it, I actually
So he's
would.
declining as well. So nominations are now closed. Do we need to vote? Because there's only one. Okay, we'll now vote for the treasurer. Roll call vote. Dr. Whitehead, please.
Roll call
For Dr.
on
Melber.
Nomination for Dr. Melber as treasurer. Ms. Walker.
Nay.
Mr. Weiss.
Yes.
Ms. Carmenito.
Yes.
Mr. Goldberg.
Yes.
Ms. Rook.
Yes.
Ms. Seamus.
Yes.
Dr. Serini.
No.
Mr. Overland.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. Dr. Melberg, congratulations. Maybe. Yes. On being the treasurer for the 2022-2023 school year. We are now going to move to the approval of the 2022-2023 Homestead and Farmstead Exclusion Resolution. May I have a motion to approve that?
So moved.
Okay, Mrs. Rook, in a second.
Second.
Okay, Ms. Walker, discussion? Okay. Seeing no discussion, Dr. Whitehead, please call the roll.
Homestead and farmstead exclusion. Thank you. Now call the roll. Mr. Weiss.
Yes.
Ms. Carmenito.
Yes.
Mr. Goldberg.
Yes.
Ms. Rook.
Yes.
Ms. Seamus.
Yes.
Dr. Serini.
Nay.
Ms. Walker.
Aye.
And Mr. Overland.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you. And now may I have a motion to approve the 2022-2023 2023 annual tax levy resolution. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Mr. Weiss?
Second.
All right, Ms. Seamus is a second. Dr. Whitehead, or is there any discussion? Okay, Dr. Whitehead, please call the roll.
I'll now call the roll on the tax levy. Ms. Carmenito, excuse me.
Yes.
Mr. Goldberg.
No.
Ms. Rook.
Yes.
Ms. Seamus.
Yes.
Dr. Serini.
Nay.
Ms. Walker.
Aye.
Mr. Weiss.
Yes.
Mr. Overland.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you very much. The board now welcomes public comments on any school subject from residents of PASD or others who have a business affiliation with PASD. And we have the sign-in sheet here for the comment period. Our first commenter is Mr. Mraz.
Good evening, John Mraz, Schuylkill Township. Earlier at the finance meeting, we discussed the treasurer's report for those board members that were not there. Dr. Melber said that the school district goes over and above what they provide here versus other school districts. I'm very disappointed that the administration would not take my recommendation to just revise the report that they give you, so both reports that you see on the full agenda tie together. You, the board, can make that recommendation. More transparency. In addition, there was an article last week in the paper that said districts have yet to spend 93% of the $122 billion invested in the K-12 education from the American Rescue Plan. In your audit, the district has been awarded approximately $5 million in federal, state, and local grants. At the last two meetings, I requested, where are the amounts and what was spent on it? Dr. Fagley said they were spent on the playground, mental health, HIPAA filters. But again, I haven't seen any reports. I would think you probably have seen reports. But us, the public, when we see that 93% of the $122 billion hasn't been spent yet, but this school district has spent that money of $5 million, you are saying that everything was spent? Is there a report that shows where this money was spent? Third thing I would like to discuss is the meetings. Some of your board members weren't at the boardroom meetings. Yes, that room is much smaller, and several times when they had public meetings, the public couldn't even sit in the boardroom. So it was overfilled with people. So this facility right here, what we're looking at, gives us more space, and hopefully more people will come out to the meetings if they know about the committee meetings and so forth. Second, the final thing, destroying records. I can't believe that the videos after the meetings are approved for minutes are destroyed. Are the minutes or the speaking dialogue kept as tapes? No, I don't believe so. So the only thing that we can go back over the years, if there is a court case or discuss things, is the videos, because we know that the minutes aren't really the minutes. It's taking points only. It's not talking about what we talk about. My 3 minutes is not in the minutes. So I would like the committee to look at that destruction of records. That should not be there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mraz. Ms. Longo?
Had I known that you were going to vote to appoint an employee to treasurer, I would have spoke to this sooner. That shows such an unbelievable lack of oversight and internal control. It's stunning to me. The treasurer role in a school district is akin to internal audit. In corporations, internal audit reports to the board, not the executive or administration level. Why? Because you need a separation of duties. He's going to prepare the reports. He's then going to review and tell you if they're correct. That is beyond absurd. When we have had embezzlement, when the superintendent diverted $300,000 to the athletic fields after the board voted not to do it? That was in the audit report. So that was just one of the most ridiculous votes I've ever seen and shows such a lack of understanding of how this is supposed to work. This is our money. You guys are here. You're fiduciaries. Please pay attention. As to the videos, I'm even more stunned. I requested the March videos. I've yet to get them. I sent a follow-up message today. Have they been destroyed prior to giving me a DVD as I asked for? Because if they have, somebody needs to be fired. And I'm tired of this incompetence and inadequate professionalism. Our district has problems. We need to fix them. So where are the videos? When are we going to get them? Because those videos are important. And why were the videos removed? Well, I can prove that we didn't talk about, in a substantive, deliberative manner, the sale of the K Center going back to 2017. No, we did not. There was a slide in a presentation that was the inventory of properties in the district. If we had the video, you would see we didn't discuss the sale of the K Center. One person might have asked, were we considering selling? And the answer was no. In 2018, the mayor came to me and asked that I go to the board and request we hold this property from sale. That hold was in sale in all of 2018, all of 2019, into the beginning of 2020 after I left the board. And I know this because a board member replaced me on the mayor's task force. And unlike you, I went to the mayor and asked him if he remembered it, and he said yes. Each one of you can do that same thing.
30
so
seconds.
It is a lie that this was discussed for 4 years. At most, the discussion came up maybe sometime in 2020. But the first substantive discussion was 2021 in a public setting, which was November, when it was removed from the agenda and set aside because we had so many new board members coming. And not one of you has had a substantive discussion. Now, I sent you all a list of questions that should have been asked in due diligence.
Time.
If you can't answer those questions, if you're not willing to respond to me in writing and answer each of those questions,
Time's expired.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Longo. Thank you. Mr. Duvall?
Thank you for my 3 minutes, and I must say that you guys have worn me out, but I guess you guys enjoy all this. I thought like you all ran for school board and believed in transparency. I did some due diligence and saw what your campaign platform was when you all ran, but you certainly have put a show on here for the cameras that you believe in erasing a memory, erasing videos, only having certain things in the meeting minutes. And it's almost like a Star Wars movie as you're erasing the corporate memory of the school district. And I just find it absolutely unconscionable. And I don't know how you guys can live with yourselves, particularly because I just realized, the first I was aware of the K Center, and I think you realize by now that I don't come to these school board meetings. At least I didn't until I heard about this K Center, and that wasn't until back in October of 2021. And that, as I saw here on the Facebook page for the school district, it said, join the first of 2 conversations with school board and administration. Now, how many of you were on the school board in October 2021? Could you all raise your hands? Jerry, are you on? Betsy, were you on the school board? That's terrific. Anybody else? Okay. And out of that, I thought you did a good job of actually trying to listen to people. You broke people up into tables and you had conversations. Are there any videos of that? Is there any meeting minutes of all the engagement of the public and what metamorphosed from that, from all the people that wanted to do something really great with the kindergarten center? You have Chrissy Houlihan, the congressman, wanting to give federal money for a STEM center and an environmental center. You didn't even engage with that, let alone engage truly with the borough. And I just don't know how you want to have that as your legacy, to just do something that, as I mentioned earlier, if you actually read the agreement of sale, it's going to take 5 to 10 to 20 years for that to even possibly happen. So in essence, what you're doing is creating major legal costs and expense, and you're all going to be under deposition for sunshine lawsuits and everything else. Why would you want to subject yourself to that? You know, is beyond me, but I want you to just logically play through where this is going to go. You still aren't at court to have a judge approve the sale. You still haven't dealt with the sunshine lawsuit that's is about to be served as to the vote you have on March 28th. And there you are, Dr. Fegley, erasing the videos and
30
taking them
seconds.
down. Think about what you're doing and what the next step is. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Duvall. Ms. Kurtz?
Good evening. I wanted to personally thank the board for the amazing afternoon we had on Tuesday. I know we wrote a thank you to you, but I would like to personally, representing all the teachers, let you know how much we appreciated that and how much I am sure we're going to appreciate the time that you are recognizing on Friday greatly. The other thing I wanted to bring up, that this is the time of year where there's discussions about classes for next year, and teachers' movement, and what grades, how many grades there'll be in each building, how many teachers at each level. Please take into consideration what our students look like right now, what we're dealing with academically, what we're dealing with social and emotionally. And we look at a class size, the range that is in the policy in some areas is very large. Of course, they all start at 18, and then they grow from 22 all the way up until you get into high school up to 29 in a class. So please understand that we should be thinking about classes on the lower range than on the upper range. And when you're looking at a grade level where it is anticipated with just the current students that we have right now, that those classes will start with 25 and 26 at a 4th or 5th grade class, that it might be a better idea to start that number lower with the anticipation of our ELD students, with also taking into consideration our special education students and what our students really need emotionally right now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, are there any other comments?
Yes. If no one from the public has anything, I'd like to comment.
Emily?
Emily?
Ms. Shanley?
Hi, I'm Emily Shanley of Schuylkill Township. I just wanted to ask if it would be possible for you guys to try to leave the sign-up sheets out as long as possible. I went to try to sign up during the superintendent's report, and they'd already been picked up. And, you know, as the meeting progresses and people hear what's being discussed, they may think of something they would like to say. But on that note, I wanted to thank you guys for moving towards bringing the meetings back into a more personable setting. I know a lot of the members of public disagree with me on this, but and I understand both sides that were discussed, but for the one reason that us nearsighted people cannot read what's on there at all. And during the committee meetings last summer and fall, I could read the ones in there. So thank you for that.
Thank you very much. Okay, any other comments?
Yes.
Oh, yes, Dr. Serini.
I had asked for this item to be put on the agenda and was declined. It's the agreement of sale for the kindergarten center. I had mentioned earlier during the committee meeting that I have concerns with several items. Number one, Westminster Abstract is owned by Toll Brothers, the buyer. I believe that may be a conflict. Number two, seller's default. We are basically, this contract is written in a way that the buyer gets to sue us for specific performance if we default. Not that we intend to default. However, isn't it typically liquidated damages, the pro seller remedy for a default? So that's my question for council, not to be answered now because I know Ms. Young is not listed on this. We have a due diligence period of 120 days from the date of this agreement. And Dr. Fegley mentioned earlier that we have not begun step 1 of the process that is posted on the district website, beginning with the court date for court approval. So essentially the property is sitting there idle, waiting while we could be actively marketing it or doing something constructive with it. Another concern I have is that on 14B, page 7, it states seller has taken all action required to enter into this agreement, which was approved by the Board of School Directors at a properly convened public meeting, which quorum was present. I did not personally see this contract until after it was signed by the board president. And I'm also wondering why the secretary's signature is not on here, whereas on all the other correspondence, including the student settlement agreements this evening that we approved, the secretary's signature's on there. Moving on page 7, item C, seller has provided buyer with all environmental reports, studies, and other information. Do any exist? If so, what are they? Because I'm not aware of any. Page 9, seller and buyer may enter into a mutually agreeable license agreement that grants for no additional consideration the ability to Toll Brothers to market the property. Why aren't we charging a fee? A license is essentially allowing them to use it. Why? I'm really concerned with item 16, conditions to buyer's obligations, all the outs. Our counsel wrote this in a way that if I was reading this and had to guess, it certainly looks pro-buyer. Unappealable rezoning and or conditional use approval, no fewer than 80, the minimum number, 80, no fewer than, which probably means double that. And then it goes on to read, no less than the minimum number of single-family attached lots. Are they proposing single lots the way this is written? That's another question for council. Singles and townhomes. Then, adjacent properties, page 10, midway through, it's talking about the obtainment of buyer of all other unappealable approvals, permits, licenses, easements, including any required easements over adjacent properties. Are they voting? Did we just vote to allow assembling of adjacent properties to occur? So we're essentially giving Toll Brothers the ability to take this property through zoning, potentially assemble it, which could increase that $4.6 million price tag to, I'll pause that rhetorical question, because on the next page, item 11, page 11, buyer shall have 24 months from the expiration of the due diligence period, reminder, 120 days from an earlier date. So how many years are we out now? And they have 24 months from the expiration of due diligence? Gee, market values, will they go up or will they go down? That's rhetorical too, because who knows? But the trend is going up. And by the way, that property, if you haven't walked it, is adjacent to walking trails, river. It's a very unique property. I did have a question for Mark Fitzgerald, who's not here tonight. He's on page 12, and not the real estate attorney who apparently we've been using. And so, since I wasn't able to have this on the agenda as a discussion item, I would like to move that we put it on the agenda for a discussion when Mr. Fitzgerald is here, or whomever our attorney is from Fox Rothschild, for the next board meeting. Because even though we have voted, and even though we think it's done, it's not done. It's not too late. It is not too late. It's just the beginning. And it's not too late, because if you look at these dates, all the reasons why we should sell, hurry, 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 sell, 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 for what? We're going to wait up to 24 months post due diligence, which is months and months and months from now. People, Come on. If you don't understand what this means, ask me. Don't assume and don't make decisions based on what you've been told. If you have a question about my actions or what I've said or what I've done, you come ask me, because what you voted tonight to allow him, the business manager, a direct report to this gentleman, and to allow administration and the solicitor to negotiate this beautiful contract, beautiful, does not represent our constituents. Thank you for the floor. And thank you
Dr.
for all of
Serini.
you who showed up and are, every voice matters, and it's not too late.
Dr. Serini, if I'm not mistaken, I don't think there's an out for us. If I'm not mistaken, there's not an out for us in this contract as it stands.
I didn't understand what you're saying. A what?
An out.
An out.
She's saying the contract has been signed and we've already received
It's
its
been signed.
There's a lot of there. It
Right,
is-
but it would
still
ha-
has to
it
get
would have to
approved by
go
the
through
court,
the
and the
approval
reality
process.
is the same
We couldn't
Yes,
just
we could.
back out
Yes,
of it.
we could. Yes, we could. Yes, we could. There's reasons we can. And if we had a solicitor here who was equipped to talk, we could do it. And if you're having doubts, talk to me offline if you're afraid to talk here, because you just voted no for me as treasurer, so you might not have the courage to vote and to fight this.
Don't question my wait.
Okay?
Slow down. Don't question my courage. Okay. I know very well real estate. I've been in it for over 10 years.
I know, which
Yeah.
is why
So
you
I-
should be asking these questions, and I'm glad you are.
I've asked questions. You know,
And I've been in it
I
26
understand it.
years,
And-
so
and
I know even
I completely
more.
respect
So
your
10 and
position.
26.
Yeah, let it.
I completely respect your position. I completely respect your position. All I'm saying, and this has been my stance, I think we are at the point where arguing about the agreement of sale isn't necessarily productive. Moving forward, I definitely agree with you. We need to have a different process in place for the acquisition and disposition of property overall. But I don't think it's helpful or productive for us to continue to go back and forth about this specific contract right now. That's just my opinion.
And I'd like to comment on that while we're on that topic, and it will be brief. Contract law, elements of a valid contract that you and I both know as real estate licensees. I believe that they are not met here, and therefore we don't even have a valid contract. And I'm happy to explain that, but this may not be the forum, because I'm not an attorney, and nor are you, nor are any of us.
I am.
Nor do we have the. You're not a real estate attorney, are you? Just because you got
You
an
just
A
said
in real
an
estate
attorney.
law, that doesn't count. Okay. And
I'm
even
an
our
attorney
counsel
too.
who's sitting here is not even with her
Okay.
law degree is not equipped. And so
I'm
if we
an
were to-
attorney as well. I'm an attorney as well, and I'm going to agree with Ms. Walker, Dr. Sweeney. It's not productive to especially insult, people that are here. That's not necessary. It's certainly not. It's not forwarding your issue. It's not helping you. I'm telling you.
I'm having a problem hearing what you're saying, Mr. Goldberg.
He said it's not helpful insulting people here. It's not helping to move forward your
So
position.
is it helpful to have a conversation with counsel present to ask these questions? And it's not too late. The point is, it's not too late.
Okay. Anything else? this
You're
evening?
not answering my question.
I didn't. Did you ask me a question?
I made a motion a moment
didn't.
ago to add this on the future agenda to discuss.
I did not hear that. But
Okay, I will
so what is your
reiterate
motion?
that I'd like to add this on the next board meeting agenda.
Add what?
The agreement of sale for discussion with council, so that all of these points and any other points, because it's not too late. It's not too late.
Is there a
Okay, it
second?
still has to go to a judge. And guess what? If in fact some of these items are a concern with any of you, we
Okay,
can.
you've made a motion, and so we just have to see if there's a second now. Okay, no second. Is there anything else from anyone this evening? Okay.
Only that you were given the opportunity to place your questions in writing so that we could address them, and you chose not to on more than one occasion.
It's not appropriate for me to put all of these in writing, the time it would take, and the lack of transparency for the public. So no, I don't agree with that. It's the board.
That's your prerogative.
It is my prerogative, yes. And I'd rather state them publicly so that those in the community know that somebody's asking these questions, not to keep it contained. And perhaps we should have had the agreement of sale, even though the board voted to allow administration and your firm to negotiate with Toll, okay, which, in looking at all the things I pointed out tonight, potentially could have unintended consequences.
All right. Thank you very much, everyone. And at 8:52, we are adjourned.